Thank you for joining me on this morning, Saturday morning, and hopefully you will have a good time because we have the morning together. Hopefully you will enjoy it. Today we're going to talk about scarcity and speculation to utility and community. I know those words are a little bit vague, so give you a little bit more context. I'm going to tell you my story a little bit. I'm a software engineer who enjoys making music, and naturally, I built a startup in Web3 music domain with my co-founders. It's called Busker. We named it after the musicians you hear on the streets and public spaces like this one. It is an alternative music platform for independent musicians to earn more fair and sustainable income from their music. We've been developing for over a year and a half now with a team of 4. But we officially got established in last November in UK. And since our inception, we do have around 67 musicians from 14 different countries. So we are learning a little bit about building a community, and it's especially hard because we all technical co-founders with an amazing designer, so it needs work. And today I'm going to talk about what we learned and how we are trying to make a progress. From scarcity and speculation. So what does scarcity mean? Scarcity basically means if there's a lot of demand for a product or a service, the resource becomes scarce. In music domain, it means limited opportunities for musicians finding a stage to play in record deals, financial investments. Those kind of things are scarce in musical domain. So they're also being affected from market saturation, their lack of financial investments, and of course they cannot protect their intellectual property in the Web2 world. And speculation. So when we were starting out this project, we were too excited, and we were just knocking on the musicians' doors and trying to explain them what a wallet is, how can blockchain can revolutionize their industry, and they can make a profit from it. It wasn't the case, because the only thing that they heard before us was there was something called NFTs, and you need to have a wallet and crypto, and they're really volatile, so they might lose their money overnight. So before we explain to them our platform, we needed to make them sure that they're not going to lose all their money if they're not just solely trust on the technology itself, but themselves. So we had a rough patch, as you all know, but we are trying to change it, change their biases, and convince them to use the platform like ours, or at least digitize their music. So from scarcity and speculation to utility and community, that's where it comes from. So platforms like Busker and other ones are not a story written by a technology itself. So it's not the platform for an NFT. Of course, we are using the technical infrastructure for building the platform, but it is a story of Abacılar from Germany, story of Barış or Özge, as you can see it here, or Alp. So when we are talking about Busker, we are just talking about our musicians and what they do and how they deliver value, create value in this space. So our favorite question, that's what I did here. I promise that I'm going to keep it short. Busker is an NFT marketplace. It is not just an NFT marketplace. That's the whole concept. It is a community around musicians and a platform to help them grow and protect their music. So why it's not just a marketplace? Because they're not just selling their NFTs or the copy of their song. So there's a scarce resource, copies of their song as a collection, and they might add perks to their songs to increase their collectional value. For example, one of our musicians are offering concert tickets. I was in Bucharest for a few weeks ago, and I bought my ticket from Basker, basically. So this way, it is not just in a marketplace, but it can be a place to sell their tickets, or some of them offering digital signature of their sign, of their photograph. So it can be a place to get an autograph digitally, and of course it's going to be the same. It's like, but it's digital and you can keep it forever. So when you tell it like this, musicians are become less hesitant and can be convinced, basically. So what we learned is, what we saw, that they can either choose to give out digital perks because they're publishing their music to a digital platform, or they can choose to offer time in person. Like Emin here is offering to hang out after one of his concerts, some of them offering backstage passes, some of them offering their stems to their songs. So this way, we are connecting a digital collectible and combining with a digital experience. So one thing we also learned, that not every musician is the same. They have different needs, and it solely depends on what kind of place within their career. Because if they're just starting out, their needs are a little bit different. They need to get to know a lot of people. They need to find industry experts like engineers, sound engineers. They need photographers, videographers. They need to be involved in the community. And that's where the nano communities start. So nano communities are the smallest group existing in a bigger community. And I really like this sentence from Sam Altman. He says, find a small set of customer segments that desperately want what you offer, because this way you can really see the thing you are trying to work on and trying to achieve is working or not, because they're really agile. They're highly interested. They need to be involved because they can dominate their own little nano community, and they give you honest feedback, brutal feedback, but an honest feedback. So they take it really, really personal. So after some time, they are becoming the ambassadors of your product. And they're often informal, so you can relatively more easily reach out to them, and they're probably most likely to answer your questions. So in music domain, we do have subgenres. Of course, you know all the mainstream musicians and genres. We try to reach out more subgenres. Funny enough, yeah, they're more easier to reach, but they're a little bit more niche than the other mainstream genres. So you need to be really mindful about where you're going. So they're hanging out places a little bit more different. And to be able to not bore them or keep up with their conversation, you also actually should care about and learn about their stuff, so you can get an honest feedback and brutal feedback. A little bit bigger community called micro communities. Micro communities are slightly larger than the nano communities. They're still relatively small, but a little bit more formal, so they do have go-to places for hanging around, so you can find them more commonly in these areas. And they do still have a strong engagement and participation. So this way also you can get feedback, but you need to work a little bit harder to get the real feedback behind their first sentences. In music domain, it's getting also more popular. There are mainstream genres, but niche genres are also becoming more popular. These articles are from the IFPI's Global Music Report, so we can see the trend for the subgenres are increasing every year. So this is a nice thing. Diversity is always a good thing. It's something we are trying to advocate on Vasker too. Because when you have different types of voices in a platform, you can have a backlog of the things you will develop, and it is a nice thing to have for the future of the product. Yeah. So to sum up, those two communities, nano and micro communities, they do have deep connections because they're more likely to know each other. And if they like your product, or if they don't like the product, they're going to tell their friends, and you need to do something about it. So they do have to likely to give you feedback for your product. They do have specific needs, so this is something you need to be a little bit careful about, because so it's easy to distract with all the ideas they are giving you. So you have to keep the massive transformation purpose you offer to them and try to make a backlog of it, but you need to collect that backlog before you take an action, because you can hear a bunch of things that only some small group of people are going to use, so you need to prioritize when listening to their needs. And one thing, it's also great, you can experiment with it. When you roll out a new feature, you can just do it and iterate based on their feedback. I know this is like a general advice that everyone giving out to the startups, but in smaller groups, it's faster because they're more agile and they know each other very well. They're like close-knit relationships. They do have the same values, and they do have the visibility within their small community. And one community type that we had also called micro-communities. So we know probably all of these artists, the BTS, Drake, Bad Bunny, The Weeknd. It's from the same report. So one thing is different than addressing to smaller communities and comparing to micro-communities is they do have different needs. So acquisition methods are different, and engagement methods are different, because smaller groups can probably be the easy to interact. You need to talk with 3 people, and you can reach the 4th people thanks to their community if you're looking for something specific. But in micro communities, or like for example Drake, if I wanted to speak Drake tomorrow, definitely I won't be able to. I need to speak his manager, his booking agent, and few bunch of other people more to reach out to him. And they all do have their micro communities, but collectively they are becoming a micro community. So they do have a wide range of interests and topics. They do have a diverse membership with varying levels of engagement, which means when you buy a ticket, you see a bronze ticket or golden ticket or something. So this means everyone is willing to offer a different kind of amount. And the super fans probably in front of the stage yelling and most committed to a person. I'm just imagining a concert venue, so that's why I'm laughing. They do have a formal structure and organized activities. If Drake hosting an event, we all gonna know it, and we all gonna know where it is going to be, and what we expect from that kind of event. So you can be more prepared to attend those kind of events. And they do have a very larger effect to both their community, but the other communities as well. This is an example I really like to share, because you all know that person. Taylor Swift is, I think she's currently around Europe right now, and if we were in Paris a few weeks ago, we would pay much higher hotel prices because she's around town. So that kind of effect is very real, and yeah, it's very real, and we need to be mindful about what a micro community can achieve together, because they also do have a smaller communities within their micro community. So a few numbers. Her economic impact is more than $5 billion with her tour this year. And she became a brand, of course she's a person, but she more became a brand, and we know her name, and it's enough to increase the value of a collection or anything she owns. So micro communities obviously do have a wide audience. So when you try to make and your, of course, marketing strategy and acquisition strategies will differ, because you cannot just knock on the the person you're trying to reach, but you can start interacting with a smaller community they are engaging with and build your way up from there. This is both good or not, and not that good because it takes time, but when you get it, you will acquire more wide audience, basically. So they have influential networks, so they not necessarily have to be part of not using your product or anything, but even if they tell nice things about it or bad things, again, it's always go both ways, they will have a positive impact or negative impact to your product. So yeah, they have an influence over their community. They do have shared resources, so if you want to engage with a big micro community, they probably gonna be using few common micro communities or nano communities. This is also a good way to interact with them if you're trying to build a brand or execute your marketing strategy. They do get hell of a way more funding, so it is, again, more harder to convince them to do something because they are not that in need comparing to the smaller companies. And they do have a broader networking company, so you can either choose engage with 10 nano communities or or you can just choose to invest your marketing budget, a quarterly marketing budget, to one micro community and see how it goes. So you need to diversify your strategy on this one, and we can, in Basker, we can also see the effects of it. You can just go to an event and talk with people. It is more effective to talk to 10 people in a very, very small groups. And they do have public visibility, so when you try to acquire them as users, and especially when they're using their product, other users will see, oh, this person is in your platform, so I might join the vegan because you managed to convince them somehow, and I might be missing out something, so I don't, and I'm gonna use your product as well. So it really helps the viral coefficient of the things. And they do have a powerful voice in their community, as the leader of their big community. So what are we doing in Basker to make sure that we are interacting with the right communities? We have diversified marketing and acquisition strategies. So we are trying to reach out big communities, but as well as the smaller communities for the reasons that I mentioned previously. It helps, but strategies are definitely very different. And something we heard also in musical domain, people want to be able to interact with other communities they have, especially the musicians that are just getting started or even a little bit bigger. They need to be able to talk and interact with the other experts in Basker. And Basker Connect is a good example, I'm going to say, because it's based on the user feedback we had. A musician just not making music, so they need to book venues, they need to do their marketing, they need to do their mix mastering, they need to find out graphical designers to design their cover arts. So Basker Connect is a feature that we developed just for answering their needs. And it's collecting application. So if you are a musician, please sign up to Basker. If you're a listener, go and listen something from it. And if you are an expert in this domain, we can also put you on this list and connect you with the other musicians. Yeah. So the power of communities is, again, in entertainment history, is worth trillions of dollars, and it's hosts one of the biggest corporations in the world. But as the smaller communities, like the people in this room right now, we buy their tickets, we buy their merch, we buy their collection pieces, we buy them NFTs, of course, and united, we are the ones making this circle turn. So even the smallest community is very important because it's a part of bigger community and interacting with other communities. So thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions, I can take them, or if you have it, you might have it later on. This is my LinkedIn, and I always love to hear feedback, nice or bad ones. So reach out to me and say hi if you want. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So it's a nice use case in the real world. So how is it accepted by the artists and by the normal people?
Normal people, great question. The first thing, the first challenge we had is making them understand what we are doing. So when you interacting with a community, you need to speak their language, basically. And it wasn't good at first, so we chose different words. For example, we all know what an NFT is in this event, but musicians don't. So we are just saying it's a digital copy of your music. It's like a vinyl. So this way they understand. So when we get the musicians first, then we try to understand how they're interacting with fans. It was harder to reach out to fans first and then musicians, because fans are not likely to speak with their artists, but artists are hearing their fans. So once we get the right words and speak their languages, it was a little bit easier, but at first it was really hard. Yeah, thank you. No questions? Okay. Thank you again. If you have any other questions or you just want to say hi, this is my LinkedIn again, and talk to you some other place in the world. Thanks.